case of the found child who is currently still unidentified.
What are some of the challenges that this case has presented, especially with the child being nonverbal?
Well, because he is nonverbal, he can't communicate with us. He can't tell us what he's feeling, where he's from, where he came from, who he was living with last. So we actually have no idea where he is from.
I know he was able to write his name, or at least what you think is his name, on multiple occasions. Have there been other kind of attempts to communicate with him through certain devices that nonverbal, typically autistic people use?
In reference to that, I cannot comment at this time.
Okay.
Detective, there's a lot of connection to a missing boy in Collier County in Florida, Fort Myers area. Is there any ties to him being missing? Is it the same boy? Do you have any information on that?
At this time, due to physical characteristics of the child that we have compared to the physical characteristics that the child has in Florida, we do not believe it's going to be the same child. However, we have obtained a DNA sample from the child here, and we are going to compare it to the missing child from Florida.
Can you tell us about his current health as of right now?
As far as I know, he's healthy and he's warm and he's fed and happy, as far as I know.
How long does that DNA sample typically take to get back here?
Typically, it could take several weeks. We send our DNA sample out to Dallas, and because they are currently snowed in and no one is in the office at this time, we cannot even request it to be expedited or get an estimated time of how long it will take.
At this point in your investigation, you may not be able to say, but is there a part of this investigation that's leaning more towards he is from Midland, or he may be out of state?
We have no idea where he's from, ma'am.
And there have been no school records that have been able to be traced back to him?
No, ma'am, not at this time.
And I know oftentimes individuals with special needs are enrolled in some kind of federal benefits. We haven't been able to find anything on that.
No, ma'am, not at this time.
Has his demeanor changed since MPD picked him up? Or is he still about the same?
He's still about the same, yes, sir.
A lot of people were wondering if he was found with the helmet that he was pictured with and the balls and things, or those were given to him by officers.
He was found with those items.
Okay. And do we think they were his?
No, ma'am, we think he picked them up along the way.
What was his overall demeanor when he was first found?
I can't really tell you what his demeanor like because it's very difficult to get that from a child that's in his state.
What's his current condition right now? Is he in good spirits? Is he kind of going along with the process? How's he doing now?
I would say he's going along with the process. Yes, sir.
Is there any kind of criminal investigation pending looking into who he was in original care with?
I believe that if we can figure out who he was in original care and we can file charges if they broke the law, yes, ma'am, there will be charges following.
What kind of charges could those be?
We could look at the charge of injury to a child for them simply just not providing his basic needs and allowing him to wander the street. You could also look at endangering a child because he's been out on his own for so long and no one has called to say, hey, this is my son. I don't know where he's been, and you guys have them.
Speaking of that, do you know how long he's been out on his own? Do you have a sort of timeline at all? Or?
No, sir, we do not.
Have you guys ever handled situations like this before, or is this just really a rarity?
This is a rarity, yes, sir. It's the first time that I can remember a situation like this.
Have you cross-referenced with the districts to see if a name matches what's the name he provided?
We have looked into different systems where we have NamUs and NCMEC, and we use the name that he had provided to us, and I have not been able to find a child that matches him or a missing person that matches his description.
Of course, best case scenario is there is a family out there that loves this child looking for him, but if he is not able to be identified, what would come next?
Right now he's in state custody, and so if they couldn't find a family for him, his family, then he would be in permanent state custody.
And if he does happen to be over 18, does that change anything?
I do not know. I do not know, ma'am.
Obviously,
Has the department or the rest of the search teams, have they maybe considered the fact that his parents might have passed away or his family might not have a family?
We have considered all avenues of approach in reference to this case.
Obviously, this case has touched a lot of people, not only just here in our community, but really nationwide. What is it about this case that you think has really gripped people?
Well, he is an obvious special needs child who's been left out on his own, roaming the streets, and we don't know how long he's been out there for.
Do you plan to provide another update for us here in person or maybe down the line with this investigation just to see how he's doing and kind of next steps that you have?
Yes, sir. I hope so. I hope we can.
Timeline at this point, though, is still kind of murky, right?
Very murky. Yes, sir.
I know Midland Police has worked extremely well with us, the media, in trying to further spread this information. What is your hope that this information kind of gets out as widely as possible?
I hope it gets out as widely as possible so that way we can find maybe a cousin, an aunt, a sibling, a step-sibling, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, anyone who recognizes him, even a neighbor, a former neighbor that can come forward and say, hey, I think this child is this child and this is why. So everyone who does call in tips and says those things, says, hey, I think I remember this child from Tennessee, when I lived in Tennessee, that information is forwarded to the correct department so it can be pushed out and they can go check on those things to say, well, did he go to school in Tennessee? Is this correct or is it a red herring?
I know a lot of people on social media especially have asked if there are any ways that they can help, because again, this has touched the hearts of a lot of people. Is there anything in place that people may be able to donate? Clothes, money, so on?
Right now, I believe we'd rather them donate the clothes directly to the Midland Police Department, and then we would take them to the child as long as he's still staying here in Midland. But he may move at some point, we just don't know. And then share the post as much as possible. Just keep sharing it so it can get out there and people can see his face.
Detective, just to clarify, you don't believe that he has any ties to Collier County, Florida or anything?
At this time, no, sir.
Have you been in contact with the Sheriff's Department down there?
Yes, sir, I have.
Have they given you any information at all or anything?
We are sharing information back and forth. Yes, sir.
Do we have any other questions? Well, since we are asking for the public's assistance in this case, do you mind reminding everyone where and when he was found?
He was found on January 29th at 1411 is when the call came into the Midland Police Department. And he was found in the area of the intersection of Ward and Shandon here in Midland.